If you're not listening to the Smoke World podcast, you're wasting your time, you mortal.
What's up, folks? Welcome to another episode of Smoke World. I'm your host, Stone. So go grab that stick, go grab a glass, whatever you're drinking. Let's sit back and have a conversation. You can follow me on Instagram at SmokeWorld50. Again, I tell you this every time, folks. Send those emails into SmokeWorld50@gmail.com. Today, we are privileged to have the head of government affairs from the PCA, Joshua Habursky's in the building. What's up, Josh? How you feeling, sir?
Thank you so much. Excited to join the program today. Like I said earlier, I'm really looking forward to the conversation. I just wish we were sharing a cigar right now.
Oh, man, wouldn't that be great at this moment? Speaking of that, brother, speaking of cigars, we're going to start with a pedigree. Where are you from?
So I am from originally Erie, Pennsylvania. Almost at the Canadian border there. So grew up in a hockey town and, moved to Washington, D.C. about 10 years ago to go to grad school and have been here ever since. So I kind of call D.C. my home now, but, still have, my family and parents are in Erie, so make some frequent trips back there.
Oh, wow, Erie, that's snowy, it's kind of cold, lake area. Okay, so you're up in the mountains a little bit up there, brother.
Yeah, right on the lake. It's nice in the fall, but those winters, I mean, we're one of the, top snowiest cities in the continental U.S. I think last year we're number one. It a lot of times rotates between Syracuse and Erie, so.
Nah, that's why you're down in D.C. You never went back. He said, I'm staying down
Never
here.
went back.
I can deal with this, but the snow, I'm done with that. I'm done.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're down in D.C. Now you're down in school. What school did you say you go to? What school was that?
So I got my master's from Georgetown University.
Georgetown University. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so you did all that. You're from Erie, you're in D.C., getting your education. So how do you end up with the PCA? First of all, what is the PCA? Tell folks what the PCA is so they can have an idea, because I know we hear these terms, PCA, but I don't think folks really know what takes place or what the PCA is. Can you give a breakdown on what that is?
For sure. The PCA, it stands for Premium Cigar Association. We used to be IPCPR, which was the International Premium Cigar and Pipe Retailers Association. And, most people, when they hear the phrase in the cigar world, they think of the trade show that we host every year, in Las Vegas. I know it's been in other locations, but, for the last few years in Las Vegas, the largest trade show in the premium cigar space. But we're a traditional trade association. We represent, 3,000 plus brick and mortar retailers, and advisory board manufacturers. So my role at the PCA is the head of government affairs, fighting state and federal, policies that are, run counter. If there's any issues, we try and defeat, like tax policies, tax increases to premium cigars, or smoking bans, things like that. So, we're very active in all 50 states and at the federal level. As the chief lobbyist, I deal with the Food and Drug Administration, the White House, Congress, and the state legislatures. So it's a very exciting role. I got into this role. I'm actually coming up on my 2-year anniversary of being an in-house staff at PCA. But I was a consultant for a year prior to that, working on grassroots campaigns and building CigarAction.org, which is our consumer and retail website where people can go and write letters to Congress, write letters to their state elected officials. But I've been a lobbyist in the trade association space for a while. Started with the American Motorcyclist Association, did a stint at the Diabetes Association, and then also worked for the Independent Community Bankers of America. So many different issue areas. I finally landed, in something with the PCA. It really is my dream job. I mean, I'm an avid cigar enthusiast. I remember, when I was 18, 19 years old in college, my college professor introduced me to cigars, and I've never looked back since. And it's amazing now to work with some of the people, like, as a cigar enthusiast in college, I looked up to, people like Rocky Patel and Alan Rubin and George Padron, as if they were like professional athletes and celebrities. And now having the ability to work with them, it's surreal at times.
I can imagine. That sounds
I'm
cool.
very fortunate.
Now, I'm intrigued with the lobbyist part of this. So, we're radio, so we have to paint the picture for the theater of the mind type of scenario here. So you're a lobbyist. So if you can, for me, I'm just asking this question. I don't know if the listeners want to hear this, but I do. Forget them. This is our show. So what is your day like, a lobbyist? Are you doing congressional hearings? Are you promoting the premium tobacco? Are we making any differentiations between the vape smoke and things like that? Exactly what is your job? And take me on a day of what would you do on a regular basis?
Yeah, it varies day to day. Prior to becoming the head of government affairs, I was the director of federal affairs, and that was, your traditional lobbyist doing, 3 days a week in the Capitol, doing 300 plus meetings a year, just educating elected officials and their staffs about what a premium cigar is and what it isn't. So, that was traditional. We do the hearings. We do submit commentary and testimony. But, now a lot of it is through grassroots, working with state association partners, training, average cigar enthusiasts, retailers, how to communicate with government. And then, doing some of the high level meetings, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit later in the program. But, for example, in Michigan recently, we wrote a letter because all the cigar lounges were closed in the state, and asked for a meeting. We met with myself, with a regional, the president of the Michigan retailers. We provided all the talking points, and we're able to successfully, as of yesterday, get guidance where Michigan cigar lounges are going to reopen on Monday based on certain criteria. So, we had to do research on ventilation systems. That's how we were able to get an exemption for the mask policy. And, some of it is crunching numbers, health data, small business data, and preparing it and getting it to the different officials. I think Hollywood has done a little bit of a disservice to lobbyists. It's not all that glamorous. A lot of it's research and writing and, just educating folks. When people ask me what I do, I first and foremost say I have my dream job. I'm lucky to represent the premium cigar industry, but it really is part educator and part cheerleader. I have to get people excited about some of the most mundane and boring public policy issues that we face, and enough to get involved in the political process, which can be intimidating. I remember, a decade ago doing my first congressional meeting, being intimidated by the marble floors of the Capitol and the statues, and like, oh my gosh, I'm in the United States Capitol. And now after doing thousands of meetings, that that comfort level's there, and I want to be able to take and teach others. So, regular cigar enthusiasts, and get them to tell their story. We can tee up legislation and provide all the facts and figures and information, but at the end of the day, personal stories are what motivate elected officials. And, that storytelling is a huge element of the role that PCA plays and the role that I play.
All right. With all that being said, what do you think? Where do we stand as far as, legislation with the cigar industry? How are they looking at this point in time? I know it's a big fight on your end, but are they receptive to this information? Is there a lot of pushback? Where do we stand as far as the premium cigar industry?
Yeah, I think that we really have done a good job over the past 2 years in our government affairs department to get the message out there that, premium cigars are unique. They're not like other tobacco products. I think our biggest risk that we have is getting lumped into e-cigarettes and combustible cigarettes. So a lot of times I have to point out the distinctions, the usage patterns, the users, the average age of a cigar enthusiast where they have their first cigar is age 30. And that is, based off of FDA and NIH research. And most cigar enthusiasts have less than 2 a month. So it's, infrequent use. There's, if you're in that average category, there is no additional public health risk than a non-smoker. So, we have to combat a lot of that stuff. There's, a strong opposition in the trade association space. A lot of the, the American Heart Association, Campaign for Tobacco-Free Kids, they want to lump all of tobacco into one category, and will use data for that, holistic category, whereas we have to point out the distinctions of premium cigars. So, that's a large part of my job at both the state level and the federal level. I think we've been effective. We've had, some decisive victories in the courts as well. So we successfully sued the Food and Drug Administration twice last year, one with warning labels, and then the other was with the substantial equivalence rule. So, basically the FDA wanted premium cigars to have to go through a similar testing regime as combustible cigarettes, costly restrictions. Basically, if that were to go into effect and we weren't, successful in our lawsuit, the prices of premium cigars would significantly rise because, and you would have some of these smaller boutique brands that would be completely wiped off the market because they wouldn't be able to pay, all the fees, the legal costs, the testing costs, things like that. So that's a big win where, in the next few years, you're going to see a lot of new products coming to market, which is exciting. And, I myself, in January, went to Nicaragua and visited several factories and partnered with Ace Prime and Pichardo, Luciano, the master blender there. Mm-hmm. And, we're doing a gift cigar. I'm not selling the cigar, but I worked on a blend based off of my taste profile and my palate, and told Luciano what I wanted. We refined some of the details, and for starting next month, I will be giving, instead of a business card, a cigar, because that's what I represent, and it also represents my personality. We named it El Politico because I'm involved in the political process.
Pretty cool.
So to me, that was the most exciting thing that has happened this year, being able to be involved in the creative process, but also learn about the cigar industry, not only from the retail perspective. Last year, I did 50 retail store visits. This year, I'm planning to do 75 to 100. But, in Nicaragua, I got to see the manufacturing process and, working to design a band, working and seeing the fermenting barns, the farms, the factory, and see how it all comes together. And it's amazing. 200 people will work on a cigar before it comes to market, before you and I are enjoying it as consumers. And, when you really think about the magnitude of that, it truly is amazing.
Are you looking for a new platform to connect with other cigar smokers, consumers, lounges, and brands while escaping tobacco-related rules of other social media platforms? Then look no further. Stogie Lives, the new social media platform for cigar lovers created by a female. So come join Stogie Lives, STOGIELIVES.com, where every cigar lover has a place to connect. Wow. Like I said, now you may have touched on it briefly. Now, what can the consumer do to assist in this fight? Is there anything that we can do, the layman that's listening, to say, okay, I love my premium cigar. This is something I enjoy. This is my lifestyle. What are some of the things that we can do, if anything, to ensure that we get to be able to smoke what we enjoy?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, two quick things that are pretty simple. Continue to support your brick and mortar retailers, the PCA members. In certain states with COVID and the restrictions, they're, rebounding right now. So they need your business. They need your support. I think that's, first and foremost. But secondly, I mentioned the resource cigaraction.org. That is a consumer-facing web portal, and you can see all of the federal and state action alerts of all the policies that we're working on as an association. So, if you're in Florida and you want to protect your ability to enjoy a cigar on the beach or in a public park, you can go and write to the elected officials saying, hey, don't ban smoking in these public areas. That's an example of a live action alert. Myself, Glenn Loop, who is working with us as a state advisor, and Scott Pierce, our executive director, we're inching closer to have sifted through 2,000 pieces of legislation at the state level. So there's a ton of stuff that we're researching, making sure that the industry is protected. But we've activated on about 70 different bills, and I would say 30 of them we've launched grassroots campaigns, which are, available on Cigar Action. So as a consumer, you can go there, take 30 seconds, put your name, email address, address, and it will get sent to your state official, your elected official. And I think that, one of the other things that we want to ensure, if you take action on one alert, you'll continually get updated on some of our legislative priorities. So you can be an informed and educated consumer. But also, like yourself, doing a great podcast like this, there are certain things that we're working on to protect the media as well. In California, last go around in the state legislative session, they tried to ban characterizing flavors. And based on a broad interpretation, the characterizing flavors could mean, like, if you described, for instance, El Politico, my cigar, we say that, it has notes of cocoa and old cedar, but in describing that through the context of those characterizing flavors, that could be prohibited if we weren't successful in fighting back. And we're fighting back in several states. And where the media comes into play is that you all educate consumers about the product, and you should be able to, I think it's a free speech issue. You should be able to inform consumers and say, this has notes of cocoa and nutmeg, and describing to people the complexity and the characteristics of a cigar.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, so now we're going to switch gears a little bit because I don't want folks' eyes to glaze over there. Let's talk about some fun stuff. The PCA trade show. Now, give us the details on what exactly is that, We're going to get into about this year, but just give a little history on the PCA trade show. What happens there? Who goes there? Um, give us a good description. Paint the picture for the folks who are listening. What's going on at the trade show?
It is truly an astonishing spectacle. It's the Super Bowl of cigars. Everybody and anybody in the industry is there. So all the main, manufacturers, the media outlets, the retailers. It's a fun networking event. We have different panel sessions that are, meant for education purposes. So I host, a federal affairs update and a panel discussion about advocacy. Also present the state association part. It's part education, part net, and also it's a buying show. I mean, that's where tailors their cigars for the year, and my first trade show as staff, I was like in Disneyland as a kid. We went from booth to booth. I did a lot of the interviews for our social media. And I have to say, I think I hold a record. In the days, I had 87 cigars.
Wow.
And,
wow.
Got to try stuff that wouldn't be on the market for 6 to 8 months. I mean, it was a cigar enthusiast paradise. And, it's an industry-only trade show. There's a lot of, great consumer events that are out there. But you have to have some vested interest in the business of cigars in order to attend this trade show.
Okay, so let's talk about this year with the COVID. So now, do we have a date as far as, first of all, will there be a trade show this year, number one? That's the first question.
Yes, definitively there will be a trade show where we are scheduled July 9th through the 13th in Las Vegas at the Sands Expo, which we've been there for the past few years. Obviously with COVID, there's a ton of evolving factors. There's a variety of contingency plans in place. Based off of government criteria, if they become more restrictive in Nevada or whatnot. This is a smoking show, so we cannot inhibit people's ability to enjoy cigars on the show floor. That's paramount to the success of the trade show. But we definitely will have a trade show in 2021. Last year without having it, I think most people feel that there was a void. You haven't gotten to see the main players in the industry, and I really treat it as a family reunion. I mean, everybody and anybody is there. I've in the absence of that, have gone to Miami a few times and visited the manufacturers, and as I mentioned, have gone on the road to 50 store visits last year, several more this year. But it's amazing where you're able to do that network and kind of catch up with everybody in one place under one roof, enjoying one passion. So, for anybody in the industry, I highly recommend attending the trade show, and that goes for media as well. So I hope that you're able to join us in July.
Oh, absolutely. That was the next question too, there, Josh. I was gonna say, hey man, how about podcasts? We're media.
Absolutely.
Now, interestingly, at the PCA, I think I've read something where the PCA actually gives an education to some of the brick and mortar personnel if they're interested with some of the tobacconists, university. What's that all about? Can folks sign up for that? You work in the brick and mortar store and you're interested in learning the tobacco industry. PCA has some tools and some places where you can go where you actually can do that. Is that correct?
That is correct. So we've partnered with Tobacconist University. I actually last year for one of our video interviews interviewed Jorge Armenteros, who's the creator of Tobacconist University. He has an amazing book that's out. It's available on Amazon. They just did an update, and Glenn Loop, who works with us, as I mentioned at the state level, I believe did the foreword for the new edition. And if you're interested in like the complex process, like I mentioned, going to Nicaragua and seeing it all come together, that paints a good picture and gives you, the primer of the basics of the premium cigar industry from, the farming side, but also the retail and sales side. Last year, I completed my cigar sommelier certificate, which is one of the programs that they offer, which was great. I mean, it was informative. It takes about 30 hours to do, but it can go up to master tobacconist, where you're doing thousands of hours, and there's a ton of different requirements. So they have a varying levels of course offerings that you can take, but for consumers, they also have a program for that. And in addition to Tobacconist University, we produce a magazine and a blog that provides some of those foundational elements. Our research assistant recently compiled information how to start a cigar shop. And that's available at premiumcigars.org. Those are free public resources. As I mentioned, we're here to not only defend the industry, but promote it and ensure that it thrives and grows in the future. So, I do recommend Tobacconist University and also the resources that PCA independently produces for free on our website and social media.
Okay, now Josh, you said you took a class. Now, for those who don't know, now Josh is a professor, so he's using these big words like everybody knows what's going on. What class did you complete? What was that again?
So it was the Cigar Sommelier certificate.
Sommelier, okay.
Yeah.
See, folks, that's a big word. See, professors using a big word on us. There will be a test after the podcast, so please do study for the test. Okay, now exactly what is that? What was the course like? What were you learning? How difficult? Well, I can't ask you how difficult it was because you're a professor. So your difficulty level compared to my difficulty level will be night and day. So, yeah, what is that?
That was basically, I'm not a consumer, and I work with Jorge to find and select the appropriate course. Working in the industry, I'm not, the average consumer. So I wanted to do kind of a hybrid. And the cigar sommelier is basically if you work at a golf course, a hotel, or a certain establishment, let's say a high-end restaurant, and they have a small humidor, I could, with that certificate, I have the credentials for that. I'm not a master or, retail tobacconist. I don't have the credential that I could run my own, shop. But I have kind of that middle ground. It was informative. It wasn't difficult. I use the book as a resource to look back, after successfully completing the certificate. So it has, long-term use. So I do recommend, for anybody, I think they have four different course levels, but you can go to Tobacconist University and select the one that fits the criteria that you fall into.
Okay, I'm just letting you know, Josh. Nobody's going to believe you when you said it's not difficult. Just going to let you know that ahead of time. Just let you know ahead of time. Now, what do you smoke, brother? What do you enjoy? What type of a smoker are you? You a Maduro guy? You medium full? Where you at with your smoke?
I'm definitely medium to full. I love the Alma Fuerte, Plasencia. That's a go-to smoke. Any Padron. I'm also, a big Nat Sherman fan, so excited to see my friend Michael Herklotz with his new brand bringing back the blends of Nat Sherman. And then Tatuaje. I love,
nice.
All of Pete's blends. The latest in the Monster series. That was a fan favorite last year. But I go and in every interview I do, I tell folks, my purchasing habits when I go to a tobacconist, I always ask for a tried and true. So one of the cigars that I just described. Also, I would throw a Privada number 9 in there.
Big boy,
usually
big spender.
Dark Nicaraguan cigar. So I will, get one of those. Then I will get the house blend, whatever is the specialty of the and then I will try what's new, what is on the market, because I want to be informed, consumer, but also an informed advocate, and someone to ever be like, hey, have you tried this? And be like, so I try everything that comes to market. The new punch, the new CAO, like I'm first in line to get a lot of these. I can speak on these reviews. It's not that great. Things.
Uh-oh. We're losing you. You there, Josh?
Can you? Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, there you go. The government didn't like all that. Yeah, I'm sorry. We start losing you. That D.C. area. Now, what do you pair with your cigar? Are you coffee? I don't know if you drink alcohol. You mean tea, scotch, wine?
So I like two. One, of course, a strong black coffee or espresso. Diplomatico almost exclusively.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, see, the government, they may say, okay, look, it's shutting you down, Josh. They're breaking up your phone. They're throwing the interruption signals in here on us. Starting to lose you there. So, but before I let you go, is there anything else you want to let the folks know that maybe we didn't touch on in reference to the PCA or just the cigar industry in itself?
Yeah, I think, the resources that we discussed, definitely check them out, but also know that we as the staff of PCA are readily question, or you see something in the news that might be restrictive to premium cigars, give me a call or send me an email. I pride myself, and we pride ourselves as an association, that we will at least find the information folks that reach out. We might not be able to get a win every single time, but we're going to work to achieve, the goals and help people find information. So, if any of your listeners, or if you have questions in the future, know that I'm there, and just give me a call. I'm happy to answer any questions and do some research and help people in the premium cigar industry, cherish their passion and protect it for many years to come.
Gotcha. Now, does PCA have any social media presence? Is there anything that folks can look up on Facebook, Instagram, or anything like that, or possibly you that you would like to share?
Absolutely. So we're on all of the social media platforms. I think, Facebook is the one that tends to be our most prominent. And, I'm on all those social media platforms as well. I think in terms of connecting with me personally, LinkedIn is the best. I will post a lot of the articles and updates on LinkedIn that are, relevant to premium cigar advocacy and the government affairs process.
Oh, man. Well, bro, I thank you for being a guest here on Smoke World, taking the time to sit there and chit-chat, educate us on what was going on with the cigar industry. Thank you, sir. You be safe.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Again, folks, you can check him out. Like I said, go there, look those links up. If you got any questions, check out the PCA. Great organization, fighting for us to smoke what we love to do. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to enjoy a cigar with you in the future. Our office is right in downtown D.C., right near the U.S. Capitol and Union Station, and you're always invited for a smoke anytime that you are in town.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you. Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of Smoke World in the books. I want to thank Joshua Habursky, Head of Government Affairs from the PCA, for being a guest. Again, folks, follow me on Instagram, SmokeWorld50. Email, SmokeWorld50@gmail.com. I will check you guys out on the other side. Peace.